Thanksgiving dinners always carried a predictable kind of noise: silver scraping porcelain, voices tripping over one another, that strained brightness families wear like a holiday costume. But that night, the sound collapsed in on itself. It happened the moment a fork struck my shoulder. It bounced, chiming once against my plate, before settling like a verdict. I lifted my eyes, pulse tightening, and found Gary, Deborah's 7-year-old, glowering at me from across the long, glittering table. He wore that unsettling expression children sometimes borrow from adults: proud, certain, unaware of the cruelty tucked beneath borrowed words. "Mum says you're the help," he announced, loud enough to slice through the room. "That's why you don't have nice things like us." Silence surged in, even the fire's crackle, the faint pre-Christmas melody drifting through the house. All of it dimmed as if the walls themselves were bracing for impact. 2 slow, heavy seconds. Then laughter shattered the quiet like glass. George erupted first, loud, open-mouthed. My mother followed, pearls trembling against her throat as she tried to stifle her amusement. Uncle Patrick slapped the table until he wheezed, and Deborah, my sister, didn't bother masking her smirk. "Gary," she murmured, sipping her wine with icy ease, "that's not something you say out loud." He frowned. "But you said it." "I know what I said," she replied, her voice smooth, practiced. "Now, eat your turkey." Laughter rose again, lighter this time, as if the humiliation had been nothing more than a harmless joke, as if the sting of it wasn't still lodged beneath my ribs. I surveyed the table. 14 people, every crooked branch of our family tree bathed in candlelight and self-satisfaction, each one either laughing or pretending their plates held something worth studying. I folded my napkin slowly, deliberately, and placed it beside my plate. "Where are you going?" Mom asked between lingering chuckles. "We haven't even had pie." I didn't answer. Words would have betrayed the quiet rage simmering beneath my skin. I simply stood, walked down the hallway, retrieved my coat from the closet, and stepped out the front door. The November cold struck me like a reset, sharp, cleansing, almost punishing. I lingered on the porch, inhaling air that didn't smell of candle wax and contempt, then made my way to the car. Behind me, the house glowed with manufactured warmth. Laughter spilled from its windows, bright and hollow, like a family portrait framed around a rot no one admitted was there. I drove home in silence. At 10:34 p.m, my phone buzzed. "Deborah." "Seriously? You left because of a joke. Gary is 7. He doesn't know any better." My fingers tightened around the phone. Of course he didn't know any better. Deborah had been teaching him, molding him, to see me as someone beneath her, someone meant to serve, to absorb the insult and smile. A second message. "This is so typical of you, always turning everything into drama. You ruined Thanksgiving by storming out." Then a third. "Know your place. We're family, but that doesn't mean we're equals. Some of us worked for what we have." I read that one 3 times. Know your place. A familiar, dormant fury stirred. Quiet, cold, deliberate. The kind that grows from years of swallowed words and carefully hidden wounds. I walked into my home office, switched on the lamp, and unlocked the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet. Inside lay a thick folder labelled Deborah, Property. I placed it on the desk and opened it. Neatly arranged documents I'd guarded for 4 years stared back at me. The private mortgage agreement, the promissory note, the deed of trust, each bearing my name as beneficiary. 4 years ago, Deborah and George had been drowning. Second baby on the way, credit in ruins, George's failed business dragging them into a debt spiral. 6 banks had turned them away. So they came to me, the little sister, the one who never quite made it. I offered them a lifeline. I bought the house outright for $385,000. I let them repay me through a private mortgage, $2,400 a month, less than their rent. I promised that after 5 years of on-time payments, they could refinance and purchase the house at the same price. No penalty, no interest spike, no trap. They had been grateful once. Deborah had cried in my kitchen the day she signed the papers. "You're saving our lives, Nah," she'd whispered, arms tight around me. "I'll never forget this." But she had, and now the debt, financial, emotional, and otherwise, was coming due. She had scrubbed the past clean in her mind. Every favour, every signature, every night I stayed up running numbers so she and George wouldn't lose the roof over their heads. She'd rewritten her own history, convincing herself that the house was hers by merit, not mercy. To the outside world, she boasted that I'd helped with a down payment, as if that single phrase could bury the truth. But the truth sat in front of me, unmistakable. The mortgage agreement held an acceleration clause. If they slipped more than 30 days behind, I had the right to demand every remaining dollar at once. They were 47 days late. I had reminded them, more than once. They chose silence. I typed slowly, deliberately, letting each word strike like a quiet verdict. "I do know my place. Check your mortgage documents." Her reply arrived almost immediately. "What are you talking about?" I didn't waste breath, spoken or typed. I opened my laptop, the glow of the screen reflecting off the folder still lying open beside me, and drafted an email to my attorney with the calm precision of someone finally done being dismissed. "Frank, prepare a notice of default and acceleration for the property at 847 Brookline Crest. Borrowers are 47 days overdue. I'm invoking the clause. The full balance, $298,000, is due within 10 days. Proceed with foreclosure if payment is not made. Betty." The message left my outbox at 11:43 p.m. By dawn, Frank had answered. "Documents ready. Courier will deliver shortly. County filing by noon. Confirm you want to proceed." My reply was a single immovable statement. "I'm certain." At 6:47 a.m., my phone began its relentless ringing. Deborah. I let it ring out. Then again at 6:52. And 7:15. At 7:30, George finally entered the fray. "Betty, our bank just called. They said the mortgage is in default and the full amount is due in 10 days. This has to be wrong." I answered with the detachment of someone who had waited 4 years for this moment. "It's not wrong. I hold your mortgage. You're 47 days late. The loan is due." His next text came slower, heavy with dawning panic. "You're our what? Read the documents you signed. You don't have a bank loan. You have a private mortgage. With me. I own your house. 3 minutes of nothing." Then, "You're doing this over some stupid dinner drama?" "This isn't about dinner. It's about missed payments and years of being treated like the household help by people living in a house I purchased." Deborah called again. I answered this time. "Betty," her voice cracked immediately, "please. This is madness. We can't produce almost $300,000 in 10 days. "You weren't concerned about that," I said quietly, "when you taught your son to throw utensils at me." "He's a kid. Kids repeat nonsense." "Exactly," I murmured. "Repeat," meaning he heard it at home. "I never said—" She fell silent. The lie withered on her tongue. "I sent reminders for 47 days, I continued. "You ignored everyone. You managed to host 14 people in a house you haven't paid for, but not one payment. We're strapped right now. George's business. George purchased a boat last month." I let the words sink in. "Facebook makes hiding stupidity difficult." Her breath hitched. "The notice of default will arrive shortly," I said. 10 days, full balance, or foreclosure. Those are the only paths left." "You'll make your niece and nephew homeless?" she whispered, disbelief curdling into accusation. "You involved your children the moment you used them as knives," I replied and ended the call. By 9 a.m., my phone looked like a crime scene. 17 missed calls, each one another attempt to drag me back into the old family hierarchy. At 10:30, my mother appeared at my door. Through the peephole, she looked smaller than I remembered, but no less commanding. I let her stand there 1 full minute before opening. "We are going to talk," she declared, stepping inside like she still owned the right to storm through my walls. "Hello, Mom." "Don't start with pleasantries," she snapped. "Deborah is in pieces. She says you're taking away her home because of some mix-up at Thanksgiving. It wasn't a mix-up, I said, my tone level, the storm held tightly beneath the surface. Her son hurled a fork at me and called me the help. She laughed. Then she texted me, "Know your place." Mom flicked her hand dismissively, as if decades of insults and erasure could be swept aside like dust. Deborah was upset, she said, as though that excused everything. "You know how she gets when she's had wine," my mother insisted, her voice thinning with irritation. "You can't just throw her out of her home because of that." "It isn't her home," I replied softly but with an edge that didn't waver. "It's mine. She makes payments to me when she feels like it. She's 47 days behind." My mother's expression faltered, confusion rippling across her face like a crack in old porcelain. "What are you talking about?" I inhaled steadily, letting the truth settle between us like settling dust. 4 years ago, when no bank would give Deborah a mortgage, I bought the house outright, I said. She's been paying me every month. She's basically my tenant with the option to reclaim the property if she ever managed 5 years of punctual payments. "That's not what she told me," Mum murmured, disbelief creeping in like fog. "She said you helped with a down payment." She either lied or rewrote the memory to make herself feel better. But legally? I held my mother's gaze. That house belongs to me, and she's in default. Mum lowered herself onto the couch as if her knees had forgotten how to hold her weight. "I had no idea," she whispered. "Of course you didn't," I said calmly. "You've always preferred the version of me that needs rescuing. It made the family feel generous. Meanwhile, I've been holding a $385,000 property that your golden daughter lives in." Mum's eyes hardened. "You're being vindictive. What happened at Thanksgiving was cruel, yes, but you're willing to make your own sister homeless just to prove a point." "I'm enforcing a legal agreement she violated for 47 days, I said, while she treated me like background noise in a house I paid for. "She doesn't treat you." "She taught her son to call me the help," I interrupted quietly. "He threw a fork at me, in front of everyone. She told me to know my place. At what point am I allowed to defend myself?" My mother stared down at her hands, as though searching for a softer answer somewhere in the lines of her palms. "What do you want?" she asked. "An apology?" "I want the full $298,000 in 10 days, I said, "or the property returns to its owner. Those are the only choices." "That's impossible," she said. "They don't have that kind of money." "Then they can start packing." Mum stood abruptly, her face tightening into something sharp and unfamiliar. "You've grown cold, Betty. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way you lost your compassion." "I lost it," I said quietly, "around the time my family decided I was beneath them while living under my roof." She left without another word. By the third day after the notice was delivered, Deborah's attorney reached out to mine. Frank called with the summary. "They're offering $50,000 immediately," he said, "and they'll resume their normal payments and catch up on the overdue amount over 6 months. They're asking you to withdraw the acceleration." "No." "Betty," he said gently, "I need to tell you foreclosure is expensive and slow. If they're offering a cure—" "They had 47 days to cure," I said, "and they've had years to treat me with the bare minimum of respect. My answer is no." "It's your choice," he said. There was a pause. "But between us, I've handled a lot of cases. None involved family laughing while a relative had silverware thrown at them." I heard the hesitation in his breath. Then, "Point taken," he said. "I'll inform their counsel." Day 5. George appeared at my office. Security called before letting him upstairs. "Give him 5 minutes in the conference room," I told them, "and keep security present." He looked wrecked when I walked in, eyes red, shoulders slumped, the frantic guilt of a man unraveling. 2 guards waited silently by the door. "Betty, please," he said the moment I entered. "We're going to lose everything. The house, our savings, the kids' stability. Deborah made a mistake. She's sorry." "Is she?" I asked, "because she hasn't apologized to me. She's sent lawyers. She's sent relatives. She sent you, but she hasn't sent a single apology. She's terrified, he murmured. She doesn't know how to... She knew exactly what to say when she texted me to know my place. George buried his face in his hands. We can't come up with $298,000. If we liquidate everything, we might get 75. Please, isn't there another option? George, I said, tilting my head slightly, did you know she calls me the help regularly? Not just at Thanksgiving. He didn't answer. You did know, I said. You heard it, multiple times, and said nothing. He exhaled shakily. Betty, I'm just trying to keep my family in their home. Your family lived perfectly fine in a rental before I bought them a house, I said. They'll survive in a rental again. Maybe a smaller one. What about the kids? He whispered. The kids will learn something valuable, I said softly. Actions have consequences. You don't throw forks at people. You don't treat family like servants. You don't confuse generosity for servitude. George stood without replying and left the room, the guards watching silently as he walked out. Day 8. Deborah finally called, not to negotiate, not to threaten, but because something far more important had begun to unravel. She was crying before I even said hello. Betty, I'm sorry. Her breath hitched, fragile and uneven. I'm so sorry. I've been awful to you. You were generous and I... A choked sob cut her sentence in half. I treated you like staff. Her voice dissolved again. Yes, I said quietly. You did. I don't know why I acted that way, she whispered. Maybe I was jealous? Maybe it made me feel safer to believe you were beneath me. Because if you weren't, then I'd have to admit how much I depended on you. I sat alone in my apartment, phone warm against my ear, listening to my sister unravel. I taught Gary to look down on you, she went on, her voice trembling like something splintering. I mocked you to my friends. I told people you were barely getting by when really, you were the only reason we weren't drowning. I've been a terrible person. Yes, I said again, gently. You have. A shaky breath. Are you going to foreclose? No, I said. Silence fell on the line, thick, startled, uneven. I'm not foreclosing, I repeated. I'm restructuring the loan. I could almost hear her confusion struggling to form words. You'll pay $2,800 a month instead of $24, I continued. The missed payments will be folded into the remaining term. You'll pay on time, every month, and after 5 years, the house is still yours to buy at the original price. Betty, she whispered, I don't understand. I'm angry, I said, and I'm hurt, but I'm not cruel. I don't want Gary and Anna bouncing from rental to rental because their mother couldn't control her pride at Thanksgiving. Oh my God, thank you, Betty, I'm not finished. She stopped breathing for a moment. You're going to apologize to me, I said, in front of the entire family, at Christmas dinner. You're going to tell them exactly what you said, exactly what you did, and exactly why it was wrong. Betty, and you will tell them the truth, that I bought your house, that I carried you for 4 years, that the person you belittled is the person who kept you sheltered. A long, brittle pause followed. Those are my terms, I said. Monthly payments on time, and a public apology. If either condition is broken, even once, the foreclosure resumes. Her voice came back thin, defeated. Okay, I'll do it. And Deborah, I added, my tone steady, almost quiet. If I ever hear you call me the help again, if Gary ever repeats anything like that, if you are even 1 day late, there won't be warnings next time. I understand, she said, her voice small. After we hung up, I phoned Frank and instructed him to withdraw the foreclosure paperwork and prepare a loan modification agreement. When the call ended, I sat alone in the dim light of my apartment, replaying Thanksgiving like a bruise pressed too many times. The fork striking my shoulder, 14 relatives laughing, the soft sting of know your place. Some lessons cost $298,000 worth of fear. Some cost tears and the crumbling of a carefully constructed superiority. And some are learned under the glow of Christmas lights, when the woman you once labelled the help stands calmly at the table while you confess the truth, that the person you tried to humiliate is the one who owns your home, the one who could have taken everything, and the one who chose restraint instead of ruin. Not because she was weak, but because she finally understood her place, far above the need for petty revenge, secure in a quieter, colder kind of justice,